Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's a Heart Like Esther's. Um, this is episode 21. It's a continuation from episode or video 19. And I'm just talking about um, my time in Miami, where I left off discussing, how I was pursuing job opportunities there. And that's why I was there in the first place. Fleeing Atlanta because of all the warfare and the interruptions by monitoring spirits, spirit of rejection, and every other spirit that was operating in my life at that time. I thought by fleeing, I kept fleeing each state from New York to Atlanta and now in Miami, thinking nothing was going to follow me, not really understanding it was spiritual and that no matter where I went, it was still there, and I needed to start like at the root cause and start fighting, by warfare, prayer and deliverance. And so, um, yeah, I arrived in Miami, and from my last video, I think I stopped off where I was, in the process of, and just coming to like the realization that I needed to get out of there no matter, what was going on. Like it wasn't working out, and I needed to like head back to New York State. And I was searching for my son where I left off, where he just disappeared. No, he wasn't answering his phone. No one had seen him, and I was just like just in a state of distress. And so I want to start off just mentioning this prayer, because it started to affect like the witchcraft, the spells and the curses and the rituals, not only me, but my son as well. And it takes more than one, in prayer, it's much stronger. And, I'm covering him, but I needed someone to cover me. And I had met this lady in Miami because, like, where I would go to, like, change my clothes because I had rented out a storage unit on the beach. And there was like an alleyway to the back of this, like, exit where you exit to the parking lot. Like, it was in the rear of the storage space, cube space. And it was an alleyway, but like a walk, like sidewalk. It didn't look like an alley, but coming from like New York or Atlanta, it was like an alleyway to me. But the way the houses were set in like South Beach, they had these sort of alleyways that like had sidewalks. And so there was a church on the end of that block, like near, situated across the street from the supermarket, Publix, and like the Target store in Burlington and all that. And I would like catch the trolley there. And I would always run into this lady, this older lady, Hispanic lady, but she was really nice. And this one particular day, I guess I was looking like wearing the distress on me because she asked, "Can she pray for me?" And she asked me to pray along with her if I didn't know it, to like look it up on my phone if I had a Bible, or she was giving me a Bible, but I had one. But I still accepted the offer for hers. And so she went into the prayer of James 5. And it was verses 13 through 16. And it goes, is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is anyone sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he has committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. And so that stuck with me. It just really touched my heart. We exchanged numbers, and to this day, I haven't spoke to her in like a few months, but we keep in touch, you know. And just really nice lady. But yeah, and after that, like maybe a year, I was watching a movie where this young man is like a Christian faith based movie where this young man was sick. He was like maybe in his in high school, and like the whole seemed like the whole county of that state where he lived got together in prayer, and they prayed this prayer, and he was healed. So yeah, this is, you know, because I was experiencing a lot of sickness and illness and diseases, and now the witches and, you know, warlocks were targeting my son as well, and he just, you know, all of a sudden out of nowhere started, you know, getting really ill. So when my world felt like it was like falling apart, I found myself, you know, in this state of like destitute almost in Miami with a, you know, with a nearly totaled car, and like my savings had like depleted. My heart ached with worry at the time because I couldn't find my son, and I was just stressed out because you know, I'm stronger in prayer and warfare and could fight through this thing, but I he didn't know anything about this stuff, and so did I, but I knew more than him. So, you know, he had like vanished pretty much without a word. No one knew where he was. He lived with his lady, his girlfriend, and he hadn't been home. You know, she was sick and crying, and like we both was just at a loss because we didn't understand it. Each day just blurred as I like called all the hospitals, searching online databases, you know, like inmate lookup, and like his name wasn't popping up anywhere. We just couldn't find him. And then because I was in Miami, she was in, you know, New York. She's an only child, just like him. He's an only child, and his her mom was helping her, and like, you know, just at the time, just in prayer, deep prayer, fervently praying, you know, that he was safe somewhere in New York. So I just knew that I had to get out of there. Um, you know, I had some frequent flying points from American Airlines because, you know, before all of this started happening, I used to travel a lot, and I knew that it was time to use them. And so I booked a flight, and I think out of pocket, I only had to pay $11 for a coach seat. Um, and I just out. And so, you know, having like left um, New York in 2020, you know, to go back to my hometown, which is Atlanta. Um, I'm originally from there, but I've spent 30 plus years in New York City. So New York is home for me because I was estranged from my family since I was in my teenagers. I was on my own since 15 years old. And so my son, you know, at that point of 2020, he had embraced his own independence. You know, he was 30 at the time when I left New York, so he was well on his own and doing his own thing. But you know, at that time in my darkest moments, all I craved for was to hear my son's voice. You know, like I just like needed to hear his voice. And additionally, you know, the insurance company, Liberty Mutual, was unyielding, adding to my stress as I struggled to arrange for a tow and a rental car. All the while, you know, I'm still not hearing anything from my son. So, in a panic, I reached out to some of his friends. Like I had maybe three of their numbers. And then I got numbers from other people, other numbers that, but it was just unlike him to be like out like that. My son is not. And he's funny about, like laying his head at it because I've taught him that since an early age, just like being in other people's houses. And he wouldn't go a day without like reaching out to at least his girl, but knowing the situation that I'm in, and we're very close, he would never leave me hanging like that. I just knew in my heart something wasn't right. So, you know, just feeling utterly lost without like any help from family nearby because I didn't have family in New York. My son and I was all we had. Him and I against the world in New York for all those years. And so I was had a lack of sleep, like, stretching for food, just eating little this, a little that, and like just like despair began to take root in my spirit and my body and my mind. And then just as like hope seemed to just fade away, I received a phone call. So I had some relief, it was my son. And he had been arrested, and I was just like taken aback because wasn't his character, and so without going into all these details, he just like wanted to let me know he had been there and just he was sick, and he had just got sick, and he was struggling with like some sort of respiratory issue and fatigue, and he was describing how this illness had just struck him suddenly, and he was in the central bookings, in the bullpens, we call it in New York City and Manhattan. And it's no compassion. Like the compassion, like it's absent in the bullpen. So it just left me terrified for his well-being. So all I'm thinking now is like I'm going to the storage and like packing a bag and getting the things that I need because I didn't have the extra money to be paying for all this luggage to try to take as much as I can. It's like $90 at the time for each additional bag, and so, I had been sleeping in the park. Well, not really sleeping, sitting up in the park all day, and it's directly across from the storage. So it was very convenient for me. I could be over there like soon as they open. It's like a brand new storage cube space little spot. So I can go into the, restrooms, brush my teeth, wash my face, comb my hair, just to keep myself, polished, as polished as I could, in that situation, under my circumstances. And so, and during that time, I also rode the trolley, like that went around the whole beach area, like all day. And like I'll hop off at certain places, like, just to sit and people watch or, to grab a bite to eat and ride the buses. After the trolley stopped, the buses still ran until a certain hour of the night. I forgot, maybe it was midnight or to 2 a.m., something like that. So I was just trying to stretch my funds. I didn't want to go rent another room because I didn't know when I was going to hear from my son, and I didn't have much money, and no opportunities were showing up. So my ankles started to swell as I had no way to elevate them. I just decided like I needed to go home. I need to like I had canceled, my gym membership due to financial strain, of course, and I just started to like go to the beach to sleep, like in the chairs behind the big ritzy hotels and shower, because I kind of blended in and to the point where they would like, hey, we put out breakfast, and I would go, you know how to move when you in like situations like that. At least I started to learn, but I knew that I couldn't look homeless because Miami is not a place where, so that's why I rented um, the unit, the storage unit, so I didn't have to carry much. So I just walked with different stuff, and I went through like some of the similar places, so I would be like look different. So it was like I would like if I strike up a conversation, I would like always say I'm visiting, family or friends, whatever the case may be. But I got by, glory be to God. And so my plans to go to Tampa or Jacksonville, like that fell through since I no longer had a car anymore. The only reason why I remained in Miami that long is because of what happened with my car. I was just trying to get it back on the road. But when I didn't hear from my son, like that stopped because he was providing me with, extra cash to make things happen. And I didn't think that would be a problem, but the witchcraft was causing all these setbacks, delays, rejections. Just, with my insurance, I pay insurance, never been in a problem, and they were giving me problems, and I knew that it wasn't legal, and so, I couldn't keep living like that. I was like, almost 2 months in, it had passed, and I was on the verge of a breakdown. I think I had already experienced it, but it was just internal. I just needed to get to New York, to support my son and see what's happening with him. And, you know, navigating through New York City without a car is not, it's not a problem. It's really easy. You can get to multiple states on subways. Public transportation in New York is accessible all night long, and it doesn't stop. So, I just left my belongings in storage and packed what I could into my suitcase and a little, toiletry case to match, just using like my American Airlines flight points. And so while I was in that storage that day, this particular day, um, before I was leaving, I received a phone call, and it was from one of my girlfriends, and she lived upstate New York. She's from the Bronx, but she had moved up recently, got married, as is the other friend, but she's like Dominican Cuban, and my other girlfriend is Puerto Rican, and but they're both from the Bronx, and I represent Harlem, and so she was just catching up because I never like really let anybody know what I was going through. I kind of kept that to myself, thinking I would like get out of it soon because I'm a big girl. I put my big girl panties on and do what I have to do, but I never had, like even when I was younger and I was going through like some, faced with adversities because I was a kid trying to negate my way through life, being on my own at such a young age. But it was never this severe. Back then I would like couch hop, but I always still managed to, that was a different time, it was pretty much a drug era. And so money was just, the economy. And it was easy, I was able to have my own at a very young age. So I managed. This time was different because it was spiritual. It was energy operating, manipulating things around me and like things that I couldn't see or I couldn't prevent, So, but anyway, she mentioned her organization, had some open opportunities in the Capital District of Transportation Authority, which is called CDTA, and it's like in New York City, it's MTA. So I applied for those, for all the suitable positions that like fit my expertise and my background, while I was still on the beach, and because I walk with my laptop. My laptop is like my office. I needed it everywhere I go. So as I left the storage area that day, I always leave out the back, which leads to like the parking area, like the rear of the storage. And it leads to like this alleyway, which is like sidewalks. It leads to like the shopping centers and like the local grocery store, which is Publix, and so while I was exiting, I noticed a van, and this lady and this man was giving away, like handing people like these packages, and they offered me one, and I was like, sure. And I just looked in the package and it had like hygiene products, like sandwiches, like from Subway, and like snacks, and like different little things, and little handout flyers, like displaying like what type of services they provide. So I just asked them, like, was just asking question, inquiring about things. And they mentioned they also provide bus tickets for the homeless because they had an influx of people coming into the beach during the pandemic. People were fleeing, coming to the beach. I don't know why, but they were trying to get rid of them. But he didn't say it like that, but I know I got the drift, so which at the time I saw this as a divine intervention since I have been praying for help. God sent me my destiny helper. So I took them up on their offer and I decided to cancel my flight, keep my points for, a future trip back to Miami to retrieve my items out of the storage and, handle my situation with my car. So, um, I just kept in touch with my son, and he said he'll fill me in with the details on why he was in that situation. And so we arranged, me and the two people from the program, handing out the bags, arranged to meet the next day, to go to the office and with the travel. And they advised me to have my luggage and stuff because it's all going to happen the same day. They're going to print out the ticket and drive me, which is what they did. So while I waited, there were police officers came in to arrest some people, deporting one back to Cuba. So it allowed me to understand that they do also do a background check as well. So they work close with the Miami Beach, PD. So after about an hour, I received a goodie bag filled with snacks and supplies, for my journey, along with two $10 Dunkin' Donut gift cards and a printout of my ticket and with the code to take to the ticket counter. And I was set. They even drove me to the bus terminal, which is located at the ground level of Miami International Airport. So my point moral to the story is that these individuals, which are these witches and warlocks, they have been trying to control all aspects of my life. And now my son is experiencing similar manipulation through discomfort, caused by their tactics involving the spells and, the witchcraft, the rituals and the curses. And like, so they just aim to strip everything away from us by placing our pictures on the altars, hoping to inflict sickness upon us and lead us to succumb to illness that like could cause organ failure or like our demise. And so this caused my son to face these type of difficult times in his life, these consequences of their actions. And like, and so you know their actions involve like demonic enchantments and like candle rituals. I remember, during this time I was having these dreams and I would always have them, but I didn't realize the Lord like was trying to teach me something. I didn't get it at first until one day. I don't know, I was just sitting in my thoughts, but I realized he was taking the scales off my eyes, allowing me to see in the spirit. And in those dreams I was able to see like one of them, like I was able to see that like the demons that they were being like sent to me, like they were gathering around me. And at first it like I was a little afraid, but like I saw this more than once. And at one time it was like a out of body experience when like I would see these witches in her, the witch and her coven. They were sitting around in a circle and chanting, like enchanting something and like speaking like a demonic tongue. And I could see them as if I was a person in the room, but they couldn't see me. And I noticed, like, I think the Holy Spirit was having me to zoom in, and I saw on this piece of paper, it was a lot of writing. It was just filled with writing. But when I zoomed in, I could see that, like, it was my name and my son's name repeatedly on this piece of paper. So I later understood that he was teaching me that when I see or feel like headaches or feeling discomfort in my body or and disruption and interference in my atmosphere, to go into prayer right then, because they're performing their rituals and stuff, to block them, to cancel them. So I thank you kindly for listening, clicking onto my channel, and I hope you come back to listen more of my story time. In Jesus' name I pray. May God continue to bless you all. Thank you.